Some people are saying that President Trump's magnificent handling of the Iranian-Hamas terror war against Israel has revealed him to be a political colossus whose opponents on both the left and right are nothing more than small, petty, fleshly instantiations of total irrelevance, with opinions that are meaningless and small and evanescent in their influence and small and also small. Other people are saying other things like, "What's for dinner, Mommy?" or "Read me a story, Daddy," or "I'm George Stephanopoulos, and this is ABC News." But even as Trump celebrates getting terrorist hostages released and securing the American border and readjusting the international order so that China, Russia, and a seething hell pit of demonic Jew haters of all stripes don't take over the world, those who oppose him are vowing to bring him down by unleashing the full force of the tremendous cultural power they used to have until we caught on to them. So, for instance, while Trump is being hailed by leaders around the globe as the Grand Marshal of the Parade of History, powerful magazine editors from one end of Manhattan to the same end of Manhattan are vowing that his glamorous First Lady Melania will never, ever appear on the cover of one of their crappy, irrelevant magazines. The editor of American Vogue magazine, Chloe Irrelevant, announced this shattering act of cultural vengeance in a barn-burning speech at the annual meeting of the Society of Crappy and Irrelevant Magazine Editors, saying, quote, "Trump may have his moment, but as God is my witness, we will show him our resistance to him by sinking to levels of pettiness and meanness that the world has not seen since our last issue," unquote. Miss Irrelevant's speech seemed to be greeted by thunderous applause until she realized she had wandered into a ladies' room and the people she thought were her audience were just her own reflections in the mirrors over the sinks. Likewise, in the smoking ruins of what would still be Los Angeles if they had taken Trump's advice on water usage, both members of the Jimmy Kimmel fan club swore to ignore the Israeli peace deal and to pay tribute instead to Kimmel's inspiring work of ensuring that every TV comedian has the exact same political opinions as every other TV comedian. To honor Kimmel's protection of the corporate political conformity enshrined in our Bill of Rights, the Kimmel fans pledged they would actually watch Kimmel's show one of these days if it didn't interfere with their nightly gummy overdose. At the New York Times, a former newspaper, editor-in-chief Blithering Prevarication III declared that he would not let Trump's victory over terrorism stop the Times' relentless juggernaut of misleading headlines, which was sure to bring the president down just as soon as Times subscribers stopped playing Wordle and momentarily glanced at the misleading headlines. In a speech to the Association of Once Important News Outlets, which had gathered in a ladies' room to hear a speech from the editor of American Vogue, Mr. Third said, quote, "Trump may be powerful now because he has all these accomplishments and whatnot, but his authoritarian regime will never survive such fiery tirades as the article we headlined, Pete Buttigieg on Rebuilding America After Trump. This, at last, presents the revolutionary vision of the transportation secretary who made history by bringing gay people to the very pinnacle of complete incompetence," unquote. And so, while Donald Trump may enjoy this flash-in-the-pan moment of 9 or 10 months of unprecedented political achievement, the powerful masters of what used to be our culture until the scales fell from our eyes have not given up their resistance. In the words of influential Harvard professor Alan Flapdoodle, quote, "We convicted Trump of non-existent felonies. We impeached him for non-existent offenses. We accused him of non-existent treasons. And I know in my heart that if we can compare him to Hitler just a few more times, he will be brought down once and for all. Our voices are not irrelevant. Our lives are not meaningless. Our dreams will never die. Now, if you'll just put $1 in my hat, I'll be happy to play Blowing in the Wind on my harmonica. After all, a man's got to eat." Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. All right, we are back laughing our way through our monologues so that you can't understand a word that I'm saying. Let me make a couple of quick announcements. I will be in Austria next week, Österreich, at a conference on God and man. So I'll be representing God, obviously, and I think Knowles will be there to give the opposing viewpoint. So I won't be here next week, which means that the Klavanless week, it will be Klavanless 2 weeks. It will be a Klavanless fortnight. So, batten down your hatches in your fortnight and, just try to survive that length of darkness. One way to do that would be to pre-order After That, The Dark, my new novel. I think you will love it, and it would really help me if you pre-order it because it helps it get on the bestseller list because all of those pre-orders are counted on one day. So if you pre-order it, I think you will love this book. I can almost promise you will love it. You can go to dailywire.com/Klavan, and they will send you to any venue you want, or you can just go to Amazon and do it there. One more thing is I will be doing a book signing if you're anywhere near Nashville at the Cool Springs Barnes and Noble. That's 1701 Mallory Lane in Brentwood, Tennessee, 37027. And if you go on their website, they will explain the whole thing. I'll be doing a little interview chat and then signing books at the Cool Springs Barnes and Noble Saturday, November 1st at 2 p.m. Saturday, November 1st at 2 p.m. I will be there. So come say hello. I would love to see you. And by that time, you should have already pre-ordered the book so you can buy another book there and you'll have two, one to give away. Finally, leave a comment wherever you are. And even if you're not watching the show, if you're just standing in the middle of nowhere, take a piece of chalk, maybe scratch it out with a rock, and just leave a comment. And if that comment shames you and shames really everyone who knows you and just makes you feel a little bit smaller than you were when you started to make the comment, we'll read it on the air because that's kind of the way we operate. Sasha Booz, I can't pronounce it. The comment is, did you know that if you want to prolong the absence of Klavanlessness, you can order the complete works of Andrew Klavan, then you don't have to wait for the new book to come out and you don't have to wait till next Friday. Good advice, excellent advice. Since I'm going away for 2 weeks, you could order my entire oeuvre. I think there's about 30 books in there, and there will be a quiz when you get back. Now, let's get to today's episode. Holy crap, he actually MAGA'd, which means that Trump has actually made America great again. This has been an amazing week, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's such an obvious joke to play the Trump happiness montage that I'm not playing it. And we're not going to play it in the show because there's too much happiness, too much winning. There's already too much winning. So let's get right to Chapter 1, You Can't Spell Triumph. So like Donald Trump, I never sleep, but like Donald Trump, I must sleep sometime. And when I really want to get to sleep fast, I use Beam's Dream Powder. Beam is proudly founded in America, which is important, is run by people who share our values like hard work, integrity, and delivering results. That is the most important one because Beam is a healthy nighttime blend packed with science-backed ingredients shown to improve sleep, so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. And unlike other sleep aids, there's no next-day grogginess, just great, restful sleep. That's because Beam Dream is made with a powerful blend of all natural ingredients, reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. Plus, it tastes fantastic. It's no wonder Beam has already logged 17.5 million better nights of sleep for people who refuse to settle for mediocre sleep. I've tasted it, used it again and again, and it really does taste good, and it really does get easy off into sleep. Beam is giving my listeners the ultimate Patriot discount of up to 40% off. Try their best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/Klavan and use code Klavan at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Klavan and use code Klavan for up to 40% off. You're thinking that, I can spell Beam. How do you spell Klavan? It's Klavan. Sleep better, wake up stronger, and show up ready for your family, your work, and your country. Because when you're well rested, you're unstoppable. And we need more people like that. So when I say you can't spell triumph, I mean, of course, you can't spell triumph without Trump, which is literally true. But it has just been, this was an amazing, amazing week. And not just for the accomplishment. The media obviously has that thing that they do where Trump will have an amazing accomplishment and they immediately forget it. They might even praise it. They did with this. Trump and his team negotiated the release of the last 20 living hostages that the Hamas terrorists, the cat's paw of what used to be Iran before we bombed it into insensibility. The he negotiated the release of the last living 20 hostages, and that hopefully will lead to a greater peace. And they're saying now they're trying to get Hamas to disarm, and Hamas is too busy killing its opposition because killing is what they do because they're terrorists. But still, the accomplishment itself is indelible. I mean, the heart-wrenching pictures, I'm sure you all watched them, of the families being reunited, and this pause. Like I said, it allowed the Hamas to take a pause from killing Jews in order to kill each other and kill Palestinians. And so Trump then goes to the Knesset, and that's an amazing accomplishment. But that's not what I want to point to, the thing I think is so amazing. So let's just take a quick look at the news. I'm sure you've seen many of these. Trump goes to the Knesset, and he makes this amazing speech. Let's just hear a little bit of it. This is cut one.
We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with healthcare and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my, what a wonderful day.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. Yay! You'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore.
I feel pretty, oh so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and gay.
We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
So that was just an incredible moment, really hard to get the entire Mormon Tabernacle Choir into the Knesset. It's not actually that big. And then he flies to Egypt. And this was the first thing I want to point out. Rulers from all over the Middle East and Europe he's greeting them, and they're just standing behind him. And it's clear that this is just he did this. It's him who engineered this, who has been basically become the leader of the free, and in this case, not so free world in the Middle East. And look, I am always grateful to be an American. It's an amazing piece of luck to be born an American, to be born when I was born, where you lived through the greatest period of American history before my generation destroyed everything. Just an incredible break. But it's not since Reagan. And with Reagan, it was different because he was out of office by the time the Berlin Wall came down. I have been so proud of our president, and as a corollary, proud of the country. I'm always proud of our past achievements, but that moment when I was sitting there watching this guy, our presidents have been a parade of mediocrities. They just have, and since Reagan. And this is not mediocre. Whatever you say, I'm not comparing Trump to Julius Caesar, but the people who hated Julius Caesar, there's a speech in Shakespeare's play, Julius Caesar, where Cassius, one of the assassins of Julius Caesar, says of Caesar, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus, and we petty men walk under his huge legs and peep about. If you've ever seen the statue, at least an imaginative recreation of the statue of Colossus, it bestrid the water, and people could walk underneath the legs and all this stuff. And that's why Cassius was so jealous of him and wanted to kill him. We talk so much about American exceptionalism, but now it is back. And I'll tell you another thing is back, is manhood. It's like there used to be a joke about some army mission. They called it Operation Flagrant Manhood. Trump has basically done that. He has brought this back, and just the style of the guy, the vision he's bringing. Here's another piece of his speech from the Knesset without the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. This is, because he can do this alone, this is cut 4.
We are going to have hope, harmony, opportunity, and happiness here in the spiritual and geographic center of the entire world. That's what you are. Israel, America, and all of the nations of the Middle East will soon be safer, stronger, greater, and more prosperous than ever before. And I want to thank you all once again for this exceptional honor. This has been truly an honor. It's seldom that a president is invited to do this. And I love Israel. I'm with you all the way. You will be bigger, better, stronger, and more loving than ever before.
And when I say flagrant manhood, I'm talking about the fact that he just put Hamas, a terrorist cat's paw of an Iranian regime that hates this country. That's who they are. He put them in a position where they could not say no, but both by taking away the power of Iran, by bombing their nuclear facilities completely out of existence. He left them stranded by bringing the rest of the Arab world in to negotiate. That was one. And listen, you got to give a nod to Bibi Netanyahu. How tough is that guy that he allowed Trump to play the good cop? Like he brought Hamas into the interrogation room and said, you want to deal with me, guys, because you don't want to deal with Bibi. With the Netanyahu's outside going, let me down, rip them to pieces. So how tough is Netanyahu that Trump is the good cop? They're saying, we better deal with Donald Trump. And it is just amazing. Even ABC News, James Longman, and I don't know his politics, but he's a former BBC reporter, so I can guess what his politics are. And this is what he said about Donald Trump, just watching him at that Egyptian meeting.
There are not many men, not many leaders who can walk into the Knesset in Israel to such rapturous applause, such a warm welcome, to clearly know so many members of the Israeli leadership so personally. He's been in the weeds on this, and then less than an hour later, appear in a room of world leaders, Arab and Muslim leaders, and have the same kind of warm welcome. It really is his force of nature which has managed to make this happen. I mean, I was struck that he was standing on that stage here in Sharm el-Sheikh, welcoming world leader after world leader, many of whom he's had his disagreements with, as we know. And it wasn't President Sisi of Egypt doing that. It was him.
So what do we talk about? Not just on this show, but throughout the conservative, talkiverse. We talk about American exceptionalism. There it is in front of you, with where Trump is standing with those leaders basically behind him while he takes over the meeting. We talk about, the importance of manhood and how men have been derided and called toxic and all this, despite the fact that it was men who ran into the falling, burning buildings and gave their lives on 9/11, despite all that evidence. But now it is essentially the kind of, manly aspect of the Trump administration that has brought this about. And then Trump said this is cut 5.
The God who once dwelled among his people in this city still calls us, in the words of Scripture, the turn from evil and do good, to seek peace and pursue it. So he still whispers truth into the hills and knolls and valleys of his magnificent creation, and he still writes hope into the hearts of his children all over the world.
So how long has it been since I've been talking about a revival, right? I've been saying there's going to be a revival, and it's happening now. I mean, the orders of Bibles are up, orders of Christian programs and apps are up. It's clear people are showing up. And I know that the murder of Charlie Kirk supercharged it. This is Christianity is a religion that turns evil things into good things. It doesn't get rid of the evil. We can't do that. You can't make evil disappear. But our God turns evil things into good things. And from this terrible atrocity, I don't want to call it a tragedy because it's an atrocity, of Charlie Kirk's assassination, with all the grief that's caused, with all the grief that will continue to cause, it has also brought his movement, supercharged his movement. And I have to say, and I've talked about I've predicted that intellectuals would come to faith, and that's happening. But the idea that Trump would bring God back into the public square in the international conversation, that was never on my bingo card. If you had asked me, 10 years ago, who is going to make sure that we start talking about God again? When I started here at the DailyWire, everybody would say to me, you can't make arguments from God. And I would say, you have to make arguments from God because all our arguments depend upon God. That it's true. Everything that the left says is true if there's no God. Men can become women. All of this, we have to, government can redistribute wealth in a fair way. All of these things stop being true when you realize that money is just a symbol of the work of the Spirit, of your spirit, the thing that you put your life into, and the government has no right to take it away. It's wrong that you can't, not only can a man not become a woman, but he shouldn't become a woman because man was made in God's image, male and female, and it's only when a man and a woman come together that image becomes completely represented in the world. And without God in the public square, we've lost the argument already. And now suddenly Trump is out there talking to the world about God, and all of his cabinet is sitting around proclaiming Jesus Christ, and God's existence. And it's just a beautiful thing, because only when that is accepted as the norm do our arguments start to make sense. On the plane back, a great moment on the plane back when Peter Doocy from Fox asked Trump about his relationship with God and a comment he'd made about going to heaven, and it was a great response from Trump. This is cut 3.
You talked about how you hope to end the war in Ukraine because it might help you get into heaven. How does this help? Does this help?
I mean, I'm being a little cute. I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I may be in heaven right now as we fly in Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven.
So that's actual Christian talk. He sounded like me praying, "Have mercy on me, a miserable sinner." That is actual Christian talk. It's not something I would have expected from Trump before. Not the kind, remember when they first asked him about this, he said, "I like to think that I don't need forgiveness. I'd like to live as if I don't need forgiveness." Remember that? He said that in his first campaign. This is a very, very different Trump we're talking about ever since, he was missed assassination. And that clip with Trump and Peter Doocy talking about going to heaven, that unleashed my favorite clip of the day from CNN. This is cut 6.
It makes him really, really like a regular folks, and as a Democrat, it makes me hate it.
I think Chuck is 100% correct. I mean, like my grandfather used to say, when people say, "I'm a Christian," he said, "Wow, you've already accomplished it. It's a lifelong journey." We're all imperfect. The president recognized that. And to Chuck's point, for regular people, they say, "Hell, I don't know if I'm going to get to heaven, but I'm certainly trying every single day." It's relatable. It's why people like him.
Yeah. I mean, when you read it versus when you listen to him say it, which is this is an important
body
component
language
of covering this president, is don't just read it, listen to and watch how he's actually saying it. I mean, honestly, there's like a combination of the humor, the quippiness, but also like a self-awareness about it's a little presumptuous to be like, you know what? Yes, absolutely, I'm going to go.
You've never seen a Democrat speak that freely, because our consultants and lawyers would have a field day. They'd be like, it's over. Like, we've got to unbutton the tie a little bit and be really regular and talk to folks like me and my boys were talking to each other this weekend. Democrat, independent, Republican. That's what people want to hear.
Yeah, that's the problem. Democrats just have to loosen their ties and talk like regular guys. And also, the other problem is that everything they say is wrong. Everything they say is untrue. I would like to ask the Democrats, what ordinary American person who is married and has children and works for a living and pays his taxes and obeys the law do you represent? Where in your list of concerns does that character fall, the ordinary American? And they don't know why we hate them, and they're in this death spiral because as their policies cause people to desert them, they have to open the borders to bring in new people. They have to turn to criminals to bring in new people, and that makes them even more unpopular. So they're actually in a death spiral. So all of this has been, that was an amazing day. And yes, it's going to go away. And yes, there's going to be trouble, with the rest of the peace plan in Gaza, all of those things. But take a minute to breathe that in, because I hear a lot of conservatives who say, "I can't even enjoy this because I'm so worried about what the left is going to say." Don't do that. Every day is a day. And when you run out of days, you're going to care about other things. You're not going to care about this stuff anymore. So enjoy this. This is a moment, American exceptionalism, the governance of men, and the existence of God in the public square, everything you wanted. It's like, that's why I'm not playing the Trump happiness montage on this show at all. It's just, it's already too much winning. As summer's busy pace gives way to autumn, many of us find ourselves embracing the slower season, quiet weekends, hot drinks, and cozy evenings with our favorite shows. I thought this comfortable routine was perfect until we transformed our bedroom into a true sanctuary that made these crisp fall nights with blankets and movies even more extraordinary. Boll and Branch's bed bundles make it incredibly easy to upgrade your entire bedding setup with just one click this fall. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh with new sheets and blankets, or you want to completely transform your sleep space, there is a bundle designed specifically for your needs. They've thoughtfully curated collections for every type of sleeper, so whether you tend to run hot and need cooling fabrics, or you love to stay cozy and warm, or simply want the softest possible feel against your skin, you will find exactly what you're looking for. Every bundle is crafted from the highest quality 100% organic cotton in durable, long-lasting designs, and you can customize the colors to perfectly match your style. I have tested these out for you by using them myself, and because I stay awake all night, I know how comfortable they are. And they offer a 30-night worry-free guarantee, so you can rest easy knowing your investment is protected, but you won't need it. Boll and Branch makes upgrading your bed easier than ever with curated bundles for a sanctuary of comfort. For a limited time, get 20% off bed bundles plus free shipping and returns at bollandbranch.com/Klavan. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND branch.com/KLAVAN. No E's in Klavan. I just make it look easy, but you use that name, spell it right, and you'll save up to 20% off and unlock free shipping. Exclusions apply. Chapter 2, Getting the Right Right. So, as I was saying before, there's a lot of people on the right, conservatives by nature. I mean, this is one of the reasons why it's interesting that I don't share this, because I think I'm a liberal by nature. I'm a conservative because I'm a liberal. But conservatives by nature are good at seeing how things are going to go wrong. That's why they're conservatives. They know if you pull a string, the whole suit unravels. And that's why they think, like, don't change this, don't change that. But I think that they're the negative side of that. I think it's good in that it sees danger coming, but the negative side of that is you never enjoy anything, because you always can see that something bad is going to happen, and something bad always will happen. And that's why I really do believe that in a moment like that, that we had this week, where so many of the things we care about were in play, not just on the American stage, but on the world stage. And as the media ignores that, you have to see it, because they're never going to say, like, wow, it really is better when we talk about God in the public square. Wow, it really is good when men govern like men. Wow, it really is good when America considers itself exceptional. Never going to happen, right? So you have to do that, and you have to bring the media of your mind to bear on these things. But it is true that we should talk about things that could go wrong, because whenever you see God making a move in the world, which is I think that's what we're seeing right now. I think God is doing that thing he does. He is doing that thing he does, and we saw Trump honoring Charlie Kirk. The guy never sleeps. I mean, I think I never sleep, but he never sleeps more than I never sleep. Trump flew back from Egypt to honor Charlie Kirk on his birthday by giving him the Medal of Freedom posthumously. It was a beautiful ceremony. I'll talk about a little bit more about that later. But when God is moving, you're going to see the enemy moving too. And of course, that always means anti-Semitism. You will always say this. I know I've said this a million times. I'm going to say it one more, that, anti-Semitism, Jew hatred, is the devil's flagpole. And by the way, I'm not talking about, I don't like Jews, or, I don't like black people. Nobody likes anybody. Everybody hates everybody else. That's the basic way the world works. And so that doesn't bother me in the least. I'm talking about that obsessive, the Jews are to blame for everything. They're in charge of everything. They run everything secretly, did everything bad. Anything bad that happens is them. And we're indebted, we're controlled by Israel. Nutty stuff. I'm talking about crazy, obsessive, crazy stuff. It will always arise, and it will arise on the right, and it will arise on the left, because it is about God. It is about hating God. And if you ever want to read my article about this, it's called Anti-Semitism is the Devil's Flagpole. It's on my Substack that I run with Spencer Klavan, no relation. It's called thenewjerusalem.substack.com. We have essays and conversation. If you look up essay number 4, you can click it on the top. Essay number 4, it will explain and show the receipts of why I believe that Jew hatred is really the hatred of the Jewish God, who became everybody's God in the West through Jesus Christ. So it's really a hatred of Jesus Christ. That sounds like a paradox, but it's really not. And I explain why I think it, and I show the quotes that prove it. And again, I'm not talking about just regular run-of-the-mill, I hate Jews. I'm talking about that obsessive stuff that you see. And you can tell it's a spiritual problem, because everything becomes the opposite of the truth. So when people talk about Israel, these people talk about Israel, they're not saying, I think Israel was a little harsh. Maybe they've gone too far in Gaza. Those are opinions you can have. But when they start to call it a genocide, the Palestinians are genocidal. It is part of Hamas's, founding idea that the Jews should be wiped out off the earth. And by the way, that's just a prelude to enslaving everybody else. They want the Jews dead and then everybody else to be dead or enslaved. So they're the genocidal ones. The Jews are just fighting a war. I mean, when genocide has a meaning, right? Words have a meaning until you are so consumed by Jew hatred that all meanings turn on their head. But genocide means killing a race of people because they are that race, trying to erase that race. That's what it is. When we fought the Japanese in World War II, we killed a lot of Japanese people because Japan is where the Japanese people live. You can tell by the name. But we weren't killing them because they were Japanese. We were killing them because they bombed Pearl Harbor. They call the Jews colonizers in Israel when they are the indigenous people. Everything becomes the opposite. That's how you can tell it's a spiritual sickness. They say Bibi Netanyahu, he controls America. He says when we can do this, when we can do that. Bibi Netanyahu and the Israelis are so afraid of America because we are their support and their only support. They will not offend us for the world. I mean, it's just, and then you hear things like, I think it was the BBC, and if it wasn't, I apologize to the BBC, but I think it was them who had an article saying, it's been 2 years since Israel started the war. Israel started the war. The New York Times says we had a hostage exchange because the hostages weren't just released. Their release was bought by releasing prisoners, terrorist prisoners. That's not a hostage exchange. That is buying the freedom of innocent hostages with the freedom of murderers. That's, so every word, just, all of the morality is stripped of every word. You can tell that this is a spiritual sickness. And so now, and this is on the left, they filled the campuses the minute Hamas attacked and women to death and shot babies in front of their parents and slaughtered people with no excuse whatsoever. The minute they did that, the left poured into college campuses screaming, ceasefire now. All of those people have disappeared because they weren't looking for a ceasefire now. They were looking for the destruction of Israel. They don't want this ceasefire because this ceasefire is a victory for Israel. That's not what they wanted. But now, because it's become so clear that the left is the source of virtually all political violence. It's not the source of every act of political violence. There are always going to be crazy people on both sides. There's always going to be crazy people who kill for reasons that we can't understand or reasons that we might think are good reasons, but you don't kill for them. All of that stuff is going to happen. But the relentless call to violence is only on the left. So Politico went out and they uncovered some kind of chat site where young people were on there using, fascist terms and Nazi terms. And now suddenly we are called upon to, renounce these people. And so I'm looking at this, and some people have renounced them. The leaders of the young Republican groups came out and says, we don't agree with any of this. But now there's an argument going on, and it's going on in the DailyWire as well. Matt Walsh put out a tweet saying the right doesn't stick together. That's our biggest problem by far. And he's said more than this, but he says conservatives are quick to denounce each other, jump on dog piles, disavow, attack their allies. I said a few weeks ago that we all need to band together in the wake of Charlie's death. And the answer I got back from a lot of people on the right was basically no. Well, okay, then, guys, we'll just lose instead. The left will keep up the united front and defend their guys no matter what. While we keep throwing each other to the wolves at every opportunity. And Nick Fuentes, virulent anti-Semite, openly an anti-Jew hater, a Jew hater. Nick came out with this comment. His response, this is not a response that comes from Walsh. This is Fuentes' unasked for response to Walsh. This is cut 10.
It's really hard for anybody to unify with you, Matt, because you work with Ben Shapiro, Andrew Klavan, and Jordan Peterson. And they are all in the pocket of Israel. And we know that these people, they hate us. Like anyone that is not down with Israel, they actually hate. And it's not a Christian thing where it's like we love our enemies. No, they want us dead. Just like the left wants us dead, Shapiro wants us dead. Klavan wants us dead. And think about the way they talk about us. They call us filth, garbage. They can barely conceal. It's like a seething contempt and hatred.
Now, if you go back to the last time I talked about Fuentes, I don't talk about him that often. I was talking about the fact that I think there's a good person buried in there who's being basically prevented from coming out by his ideology and wherever that ideology comes from, and you know where I think it comes from. And so I've actually been quite kind to him, even though I don't think he is filth. I think he's talking filth, but I've been quite kind to him. But the other thing is, it's a fantasy. You can say of Ben Shapiro, he likes Israel too much. He cares too much about Israel. He's focused too much on Israel. But you can't say he's focused secretly or he's in their pocket or anything like that. That is his open belief. And as for me, I don't know anybody in Israel. I mean, I think I have a distant relative there. I've never met him. You know, I have a friend who has a son in the IDF, so I guess that's a connection. But, I have more contacts in England and care more, actually, about England. I'm terribly sad about what's happening in England than I do about Israel. There's a thing on the internet where I'm supposed to get $7,000 every time I tweet, I post on X, and I'm thinking like $7,000 for a tweet. I want $7,000 per word, and I don't even want to post it. Even if I'm talking to my wife and saying, "How's it going? How was your day, honey?" "How was your day?" I want $7,000 per word. But it's all a fantasy. It's all a fantasy. And listen, my reaction to this thing on the right. I don't hate Nick. I don't hate Candace. I don't hate Tucker. But I think they have lost their way. I think they are doing something immoral. And I think I believe that this obsessive hatred of Jews, which is what it is, I mean, let's face it, is an obsession, obsession against God. It is against the God who became everybody's God through the Jewish Savior, Jesus Christ. Matt has a point. Victory depends on unity. It's true. We can't be picking on everybody. I don't argue with libertarians. I don't agree with libertarians, but I don't argue with them. I don't argue with isolationists. I actually have feelings for isolation. I think I see their point about that, but I'm not an isolationist. But they're welcome on board. It's a big tent. That's great. But surely, and by the way, I'm not going to pick on some kids or young people saying nasty things online. Who cares? When the New York Times says racist, awful, sexist things every day on their pages, and so does AOC, and so does all of the people on the left of the party. DEI is just blank racism. The way they talk about white people is disgusting. The way they want all outcomes to be the same is immoral. They want to erase women from the face of the earth. All I have to do is put on a string of pearls and talk in a fluty voice, and I can replace women. They're disgusting. So I don't care. You want to say there's a chat site where people say disgusting things. Yes, there's a newspaper called the New York Times, and there's a network called NBC where people say disgusting things as well. So yes, I don't care about that. But J.D. Vance, the vice president, came out and said, I'm not going to pick on these young people saying stupid things. We're not going to demonize young men for being young men. That would play a lot better for me if I didn't see Tucker Carlson in the Rose Garden at the Charlie Kirk ceremony. I mean, I do think about this. And people write to me and they say to me, you should tell Megyn Kelly she's got to denounce Tucker and Candace. And to me, that's not the point. I don't care who denounces who, and I don't think we should waste a lot of time on this, and I don't want to keep talking about it. But I do care that we on the right are clear about who we are clear about what we believe. I always say this, I don't go into the details about what people are saying on the right because I want to be clear about what I believe. And This hatred of Jews is a hatred of God. Remember, Paul said that we were grafted on to the tree of the Jews. You were. I wasn't. I was born there. So I outrank all y'all. Okay. So, all right. I'm joking, but still, this God who chose the Jews became everybody's God through Jesus Christ. And I'm going to tell you something. Tucker had that pseudo-historian on. He's a history hobbyist who came on and indicated that he thought, the Holocaust was just, the Nazis took too many prisoners and they didn't want them to starve to death, so they did them the favor, basically, of gassing them all to death. Let me tell you what the Holocaust was, and this will drive some of you crazy, but it's true. The Holocaust was the crucifixion on IMAX. It was for those who missed the point the first time that this is who we are. This is who people are, that we will take God. If you don't think that Jesus bled when little children were led into a gas chamber, you don't know who Jesus Christ is. I don't care what you say. I don't care how many times you tell me Christ is king. You do not understand what is going on. You know, when you pour the beauty of Christ and the beauty of the Jewish God, when you pour that into an entire civilization, as Christianity did, there are going to be people who have a reaction to that, and the evil has to come out somewhere, and it came out in the Holocaust. The Holocaust was a reminder that no matter who you are, no matter how high your civilization gets, no matter how rich, how great, you and me, we are still the schmucks who drove the nails in. We are still those guys who want to shrug off the yoke of righteousness that comes to us through God. So, yes, you know, I wish our Vice President, J.D. Vance, would tell Tucker to hit the road. I wish he would tell him to pound sand. And I think Walsh should be clear in denouncing this evil, even though he calls for unity, which I agree with, you know, but he should denounce the evil of Jew hatred. But the most important thing is that we shame the Jew haters by who we are, by acting justly and loving faithfulness and walking humbly with our God. And that's what I want to see from the right. Your dog's excitement says it all. That full body tail wag, those happy little hops, and that goofy grin that means dinner is here. That's what happens when dogs taste Ollie. While other brands focus on convenience over quality, your dog deserves better than processed kibble that's been sitting on shelves for months. It's made fresh in U.S. kitchens with human-grade ingredients. Ollie delivers clean nutrition without any fillers or preservatives, just real food that leads to real results, more energy, shinier coats, better digestion, genuine mealtime excitement. With 5 protein-packed recipes like fresh beef with sweet potatoes and fresh turkey with blueberries, even picky eaters dive right in. You might find yourself thinking your dog eats better than you do, and possibly you will be right when you use Ollie. I love dogs. I really do. And listen, a lot of them won't eat anything, so you got to choose the good stuff. Ollie is the only fresh dog food company offering unlimited routine health screenings, helping your pup live their healthiest, happiest life. Dogs deserve the best, and that means fresh, healthy food. Head to ollie.com/Klavan. Tell them all about your dog. Use code Klavan to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a happiness guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/KLAVAN. Enter code Klavan to get 60% off your first box. Chapter 3, Goodbye, Annie Hall. It seems like a weird segue from the Holocaust to Diane Keaton, but there is a bit of a connection here. Diane Keaton's actress was 79 years old, went into a sudden decline and died. Got a lot of press on both sides of the political aisle and just in all the culture section. And I was really taken with this because I don't really care very much when celebrities die if they're not John Wayne, because for one thing, I didn't know them, and for another thing, they're not John Wayne. So it doesn't really matter to me that they passed on. I enjoy their work, and I congratulate them on a good career. But they have no personal meaning to me. But I have to admit, when I heard Diane Keaton was dead, a little bit of a wave of sadness went over me, and I started to think about that. And I really think there's a reason for it, and a meaningful reason for it. She was in a lot of hit movies. She was very big on the romantic comedy, so a lot of her hit movies I didn't see. But she was in a lot of movies that were pretty good. But she was in 2 movies that really defined her early in her career, and both in the 1970s. And that these are the 2 movies that I think gave her that iconic personality that make her an introject, somebody you hold inside yourself, an image you hold inside yourself that causes you to be emotional when she passes away. The Annie Hall was obviously a fictionalized version of her love affair, which was not that long, with Woody Allen, and she won the Oscar for that, I believe. And she in that movie, when he met her when she auditioned for his play, Play It Again, Sam, before that became a movie. And she auditioned for his play, and he said, if Huckleberry Finn was a gorgeous young woman, he'd be Keaton, which means there was something about her that captured the American spirit. She was somehow a very American girl. There was something about her that was the all-American girl. She was vulnerable. She was insecure. She was incredibly feminine in all her roles. She was a very feminine spirit, but she was also quirky and independent and completely herself, which is a very American girl thing. You know, there was something about her that she was tender and feminine, but at the same time, there was just something not like everybody else about her that she was going to keep hold of. And when you look at The Godfather, which is, of course, the second greatest movie next to Casablanca ever made, she played the all-American girl. Michael Corleone, played by Al Pacino, who she also had an affair with, I believe, was going to marry her because he was the ultimate assimilationist. That's how the movie begins. And he is going to become, he's fought in the war, he's all-American. The other mobsters make fun of him. Why would you go and kill for people you don't know? But no, he's completely committed to that. But by the end of the movie, the old ways have dragged him back into this, organization, the mafia. And it ends in this very famous scene where Diane Keaton, as his fiancée, goes in and challenges him. Did you kill this man? Are you a gangster? And this is that scene, is cut 7.
This one time. This one time I'll let you ask me about my affairs.
Is it true?
No.
That Corleone.
So if you can't see that, if you're just listening to that famous last scene, the last shot of the movie is the door swinging shut in Diane Keaton's face. In other words, saying that Al Pacino has lied to her, he is a murderer, he is a gangster, and he's closing his door on that pathway to assimilation. That was her. And it's a scene that harkens back to a scene in a famous John Wayne movie called The Searchers, which ends with the door slamming shut on John Wayne, saying, oh, now we've tamed the West, the rowdy Western American has to be shut out of now that we're becoming a civilized nation with laws and with homes and with wives and families. And this, he's saying, we're shutting out the American dream completely because we're going back to the other way. And she plays the same part in Annie Hall. Woody Allen had this relationship with her, and he falls in love. He plays a guy named Alvy Singer, and he goes home with her to meet her family. And this is that hilarious scene, is cut 8.
It's a nice ham this year, Mom.
Oh, yeah. Grammy always does such a good job.
Great sauce.
It is. It's dynamite ham.
We went over to the swap meet. Annie, Graham, and I. Got some nice picture frames.
We really had a good time.
Anne tells us that you've been seeing a psychiatrist for 15 years.
Yes, I'm making excellent progress. Pretty soon when I lie down on his couch, I won't have to wear the lobster bib.
So he's there, and they're talking, if you couldn't see it, they're talking about ham, which of course is forbidden to Jews. And there's a cut to Woody Allen, and suddenly he's a Hasidic rabbi with the long beard and the sideburns and all that stuff, and the big funny hat. Because in other words, he also wants to assimilate. He's in love with this American dream, and it makes him feel incredibly Jewish, incredibly outside the norm. And so the reason I think that we felt, so many people felt the death of Diane Keaton is because we fear this, I think. We fear that, like Michael Corleone, the door has been shut on this American dream, this America that we all wanted to be a part of, that we all wanted to be to become, but which has been under attack from within for the last 50 or 60 years. People telling us we were evil, that we're racist, systemically racist. America was never great, as Andrew Cuomo said. America was never great. It's all in a lie. This Make America Great Again. It's all just wanting to go back to racism and evil and all this. And we feel that that door is being shut in the face of this American dream that I think Diane Keaton represented in these two films. And I don't think that's true. I think that Michael Corleone makes a choice. There's a great cultural tide that pulls him in, as he says, just as you think you're out, they pull you back in. And yet he makes a choice to swim along with that tide. And he does not make the choice to assimilate, to walk away, and to do the right thing. He lies to her. And he tells her he's not who he is. And then and by doing that, he slams the door in his face. But I don't think we have to do that. I think we have to just follow the truth about America, which is this is an essentially great and good country. And then we can keep that door open. All the same, I did feel sad when the door closed on the life of Diane Keaton. In a world where misinformation spreads fast and the truth can be hard to find, Linda's story shows what happens when someone gets the support they really need. When Linda found out she was pregnant, she felt completely overwhelmed. Even though she believed abortion wasn't right, the fear was almost unbearable. She didn't know who to talk to or where to go. And that's when she found a PreBorn network clinic. The people there didn't judge her. They prayed with her. They listened to her. They helped her see past the fear that was clouding everything. And with their support, Linda chose to have her baby. PreBorn helps mothers in their most uncertain moments, giving them the clarity and compassion they need to choose life. This is why truth matters now more than ever, because when a mother hears the truth, lives are saved. Just $28 provides that truth through a free ultrasound. This is your chance to make a difference that echoes for generations to come. Pick up your phone, dial pound 250 and say baby. That's pound 250 baby, or donate securely at preborn.com/Klavan. That's preborn.com/KLAVAN. Final chapter, revival. So I want to bring all this together because, like I said, I'm going away next week, and I always assume when I'm going away that something terrible will happen and I'll never return. So I want to leave you with at least these thoughts on what is happening in this moment, and especially about this revival, which, as I say, I've been talking about and predicting for over a decade, well over a decade, and it's only become a big thing in the decade because I was working at the DailyWire. My favorite moment from the Charlie Kirk Award ceremony where they gave him the Medal of Freedom was Erica talking with Donald Trump standing in the background behind her. And I'm sorry to have so many sight things that for people who are listening, but I'll describe it afterwards. Here's Erica making a speech, Erica Kirk making a speech as Trump stands behind her. This cut 9.
He fought for truth when it was unpopular. And he stood for God when it was costly, but that's what we're called to do. Surprisingly enough, he did pray for his enemies, which is very hard, but he did. He did. He did. No one else, I saw him do it. No, he never did it in front of anyone else, but I can attest to that.
So Trump is behind her, and he gives this big grin when he says this, because he already said at his memorial that he can't forgive his enemies, he hates his enemies. And so he just gave a big shrug, and the entire audience cracked up. I thought it was just a wonderful moment because he's every man. We all feel that way about our enemies. We all try to love our enemies, maybe some of us, sometimes, occasionally. But he was every man, and that was a wonderful thing. And again, I'm sorry that it's Charlie Kirk. Of course, I'm sorry that it's Charlie Kirk's death that has supercharged this revival, but the whole religion arises out of an atrocity, the crucifixion, and this is God telling us not that he will expunge evil, that even God can't erase what has happened, but he will make good out of it. And it's not that everything happens for a reason. I don't believe that, but I believe that God gives everything that happens a reason and puts it into, it's like a random brick that somehow he puts perfectly into his teleological castle. I don't know how he does that, of course. He hasn't shared that with me, but it's an amazing, amazing thing to do. He's like a novelist when your characters come to life and they do things that you don't want them to do, and yet you still have to fit that into a beautiful story. I guess it's kind of like that. And again, it seems like Bible sales are skyrocketing, Christian music on Spotify, church attendance going up. And since I've been predicting this forever, and since I'm going away, I just want to leave a last word of what I think all of this great stuff means to us. Because, a lot of people ask me about video games. They ask me, are video games an art form? And I usually say, well, they're an art form if you respond to them as an art form, if you respond to the beauty, if you let them open your mind to things that you didn't know before. If you sit there smoking dope and playing in your mother's basement for 6 hours a day, no, that's not an art form. That's you being a lazy, good for nothing. You've got art is a two-way thing. It is a relationship that you are having with the mind of a creator, right? When you read, as you will, because you've pre-ordered it while I was speaking, after that, the dark, you and I will be communing. I will be giving you a vision, and that vision, if you allow it to, will become part of your vision. Not that you will agree with me. It's not that you will agree with me, but you will now have another person's vision in your head, and therefore you will have more space in your head. And of course, if you have a relationship like that with God, you will get God's vision in your head, and you will have an infinite amount of space. And that's why I think art and religion are very tied together, that interacting with religion, interacting with a fellow spirit on earth is like exercise. It's like exercise for a marathon, so that when you come to God, you will have a mind that is flexible and can actually engage with religion. And so it's great to me that the entire cabinet of the United States is standing up and proclaiming Jesus, as they did at Charlie's memorial. But I think that we have to ask ourselves, what is our role? What do I do with this moment? What am I supposed to do? And as long as we're in the world, as long as we're going to be in the world, Christianity is going to be a choice. It's not going to be a conclusion. There can be as many revivals as you want, but this is not going to become everybody. There's still going to be this powerful force of unbelief, this powerful force of secularization, which I believe is what has caused us. We're dying as a race, but people aren't even having babies. That's what I think has caused this hatred of women, this denigration of the roles of motherhood and the roles of homemaking that I think are the central role, not only of women, but the central role of humanity. I think that everything else that we do is meant to protect that and uplift it and make it even bigger than it is. And instead, we've turned away from it, and we're telling ourselves that men can become women and men can do that job, and that homosexual relationships, which you'll never hear me hate on gay people, but homosexual relationships should be at the center of human life. No, the relationship between a man and a woman and a child, that is the center of human life. That's on every Christmas card. That is what life is all about. So those who accept Christ are accepting a relationship, and that's something that goes two ways, right? You can't have a relationship. First of all, you can't have a relationship if you don't bring something to the table. And what you bring to the table was given to you by God, but now you're giving it back to God. So just like in a work of art, you can't read Macbeth or Silence of the Lambs. You can't watch Silence of the Lambs unless you know that Hannibal Lecter is the bad guy. You cannot understand that work unless you know he's the bad guy. You can open your mind to what Hannibal is saying. You can open your mind to enjoying his evil. That's part of the expansion of your mind. But you have to be grounded in the absolute knowledge that this is evil, right? So that's why Jesus, when he's asked how you get into the kingdom of heaven, he starts with some rules, some basic rules. Don't commit adultery. Don't steal. Don't kill. Don't covet. Those are bad things. Honor your father and mother. Love God and your neighbor. Those are good things. Those are basic things that you have to know in order to enjoy this relationship, in order to come into this relationship and let it blow open your mind. So when he says love your enemies, he doesn't mean, forget that your enemies are evil. He means love your enemies in their evil. Don't love the evil, but love the enemy who has now been destroyed and taken over and possessed by this horrible, horrible thing. You have to feel for people who are in that situation, because it could be you. If you weren't clinging to the cross, it would be you. If you were stepped out into the dark where the devil prowls like a lion, it would be you who was devoured, like that guy who went into a church and shot people. And that's where the loving your enemies comes in. That's where the judging not comes in. When I say judge not, people say, well, don't you have to judge? No, you have to know. You have to know what evil looks like, and then judge not, because you don't know what journey that person is in. And Jesus doesn't talk about sin because he wants you to be a good little girl or boy. The word sin, both in Greek and the Hebrew, It says the New Testament is Greek, obviously the Old Testament is Hebrew. It means missing the target. It means missing the target. Just like if you're an archer and you shoot and you miss the target, that's the word for sin. It's hamartia in Greek. I don't know what it is in Hebrew. Because to make fun this aside, I don't speak Hebrew. And so all of this stuff about sin that gets so much emphasis in so many Christian churches is just a preparation for hitting the target. And so you have to know what the target is. And when the rich man comes to Jesus and he says, well, I follow all the commandments, Jesus says, oh, well, then give all your money away. And he doesn't say that because money is bad. The love of money is bad, but money is not bad. He says it because that's what the guy is holding on to. And I'm holding on to other things. And you may be holding on to your marijuana or your hatred, or your sense of your self-righteousness that allows you to shout at people and curse people and condemn people. You may be holding on to those things, and those are the things he's telling you to let go of after you get the sin part out of the way. You're not going to stop sinning. You just have to know good from evil. You have to know what Jesus is saying, what the rules are, what the rules of this relationship are. And then you have to start to say, oh, that abortion I had, even though it gave me a great rock career, it's a bad thing. I have to confront that in myself. The porn that I watch when my wife's not looking, that's a bad thing. I've got to clean that up. I've got to start to be something else, because the target is you as you were made to be. That is the target that you are not hitting when you're immersed in sin. So the sin part is just the first thing. It's just, okay, now I get what the rules of the game are. It's now becoming who you are supposed to be. And you do that in relationship with other people. You don't do that sitting in a room by yourself and telling yourself that you're a great guy. You clear your mind of all the things that, get in your way. And then you start to see what it is like to relate to people in this way. And you will find it's really hard. The revival is here, but it's just like a video game. If you are just watching it and, smoking dope and playing in your mother's basement, it's not going to be anything to you. The revival's not going to be a damn thing to you. It's not a revival unless it revives you, unless it makes you something that you weren't before, and that's, to hit the target. Thinking about how other people are missing the target, how the left is missing the target, how the Jews are missing the target, how the sinners or the atheists are missing the target, doesn't bring you 1 inch closer to the target, because it's you. You are the thing. You are the goal. The Christ that is in you is the goal. That's the target. And when you focus how you're missing the target, that's important, but it's only a step to becoming what you're supposed to be, which is an active thing. So in this moment, forget your accusations against other people. Forget the voice that accuses you. Forget the voice that, says you're a bad guy. All of that. The voice that says, I love you as you are. As you are. I love you. I know you as you are. That's the voice you follow. That's the voice that will take you where you want to go. And then you will have a revival of your own, even if I don't make it back from Austria. If you own a handgun for self-defense, as I do, you know there's a struggle. You need it secure, but you also need it accessible when seconds count. Too often you're stuck choosing between locking it away or leaving it vulnerable to kids, guests, anyone who shouldn't have access. That's exactly why StopBox USA solved the problem with the StopBox Pro. It's 100% mechanical, keyless, battery-free lockbox that gives you instant access to your firearm when you need it most and when seconds count. No electronics, no keys, no codes, just a patented 5-button locking system that responds only to your unique input. It's fast, it's intuitive, and it's built for muscle memory, so you're not overthinking, you're just reacting. I think about this all the time. I own a gun for protection. I want to be able to get it fast, and I want it to be able to keep it secure at the same time. Everything is made at StopBox right here in the USA with their own facility, so you know you're getting the best quality, no worrying about tariffs, and you're supporting American workers with every purchase. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off at StopBox when you use code Andrew Klavan at checkout. Head to StopBoxUSA.com and use code Andrew Klavan for 15% off your entire order. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them it was us who sent you. This month, DailyWire Plus members are getting more than ever before. From USS Cole, Al-Qaeda's strike before 9/11, to the 1916 Project, the Halloween thriller Nefarious, and Hiding in Plain Sight. October is packed with must-see premieres. Don't miss a moment. Join now. Get 40% off a new annual membership with code FALL40. This month, there's more happening on DailyWire Plus than ever before. That is FALL, F-A-L-L, 4040. Don't miss it. Go to dailywire.com and join today. Klavan Klapbacks.
I hate my opponent.
All right, Klavan Klapbacks is Klavan with a K, Klapbacks with a K. Klavan Klapbacks at dailywire.com. Please write in, ask anything you want. Ask religious questions, political questions, personal questions. I will try and field them if I can. This one is from Bernard. It's not Bernard. He says, you mentioned a couple episodes ago that if you're not reading novels and watching movies, you won't have your finger on the pulse of your society. My question is, do I need to waste my time on output from the last few decades of this culture, which has become increasingly repugnant to me over the last 10 years, when just to fully understand Shakespeare and Dostoevsky is taking me years, let alone all the faith authors like St. Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, Chesterton, Pope Benedict XVI, Scott Hahn, etc. Thanks for reading my question. Great question. Great question. Do you need to read contemporary novels? I assume you're accepting mine. If you're not reading my contemporary novels, you have no idea what's going on. But I think it's a really good question. I, too, love the classics. I make sure to read at least a dozen classics every year. So I read about, I try to read between 60 and 70 books a year. I try to make a dozen of those classics, even classics I've read before. I do feel that if I don't read modern stuff from time to time, that I get stale, because even if it's good, even if it's not good, even if it's just a work of art, it will tell you where the world is now, even if that makes you unhappy. It'll tell you what the issues are now and how to bring Shakespeare to bear on those issues. This is my personal experience, so, do whatever you want. But my personal experience, it's just like when the music I love is swing music from the 40s and 50s, music that was popular before I was born. But every now and again, if I feel like I'm listening to ghosts, if I don't turn on some Taylor Swift or whatever the going thing is and find out about it. So again, it's up to you, but I think every now and again, it's nice to refresh yourself and come out of the past and understand what's happening in the moment, even though it can be repugnant. From Stephanie, during the member block today, your response to the woman's letter made me cry. As the mother of a gay son and a Christian, I too have wrestled with these thoughts, but as you've stated, I have never once withheld my love for him. As you said, our job is to love one another. I will let God decide the rest. My only reaction when I was told the news was life is going to be so hard for you being black and gay. I love that young man fiercely. Thank you so much for reading and commenting on that letter. I could not have said it better. From Stephanie. That's a beautiful thing to hear, because of course I hear the other stuff all the time. From David and Christine, my wife and I are both 34 years old and realizing that we are at a crossroads in our life together and we need to decide whether or not to move forward with or without children. My wife is quite anxious about pregnancy, childbirth, and raising an infant. We are both praying for wisdom and guidance from God. My wife is very stressed and even says, if God wants me to have a child, I will just get pregnant. I wish he would just tell me what to do. What advice can you give us on how to come to a decision, be at peace, and move forward with our lives? Thanks, David and Christine. Well, I think praying is good. And I think, I'm hearing something here that sort of disturbs me a little bit. You're not saying, for instance, this is a much longer letter, but even in the longer letter, you haven't told me that she's yearning to have a child. So when you ask what you should do, I don't think the answer is I don't think your question should be, how can I convince her to have a child? This is not something that you convince somebody to do, because as my father used to say, children come to stay, they do not go away, and so you want her to actually be committed to this. But I think it might be really helpful. And here's a situation. I always hate to recommend any kind of therapy, because who knows, there's so many bad therapists out there, so many left-wing therapists out there. It's really hard to find a good one. But this is the kind of thing that a therapist can actually help with, because you want to know why, most women have a hankering to have children. There are the exceptions, of course, but if God wants me to be pregnant, I will get pregnant is not a good way forward. God wants your buy-in a lot of times. He doesn't just send things your way because he wants them to happen. He wants you to buy in. And certainly with children, I think that's an important thing. So, you mentioned in the letter that you guys had trouble before, that you were a selfish husband until you found Christ. I think that maybe that may have something to do with this. You may feel unsure of who you are and will be as a father. But I think this is something you should go and talk to somebody about. Find somebody you're sympathetic with and who's sympathetic with you. There are Christian therapists as well. And just find out what it is that's holding her back, that's not holding you back, and what it is that is making her feel this way, because it would be worth it for her just to know whatever the decision you guys make is. It's a tough one. I can't solve that for you, but I think that you should solve it, whatever decision you make. All right, we're going into member block, which means those of you who are not members are about to be plunged into a darkness that I cannot even describe. You could become a member this very day. You could become a member while I'm talking. You could go to dailywire.com/subscribe and use code Klavan at checkout. You will get 2 months free on all annual plans. If you don't do that, there's nothing but darkness left, nothing but darkness and fire, screaming, pain, climbing desperately across broken glass, hoping you can get to the next oasis of Klavanhood out of this Klavanless darkness. If you are a member, come to Member Block.